Hi, this is part 3 of Anna Lappé. Okay, so now we're talking about her fourth section, which is the organic solution, and we've already been mentioning this throughout. Now, she raises an interesting and convincing statistic here. She says by one estimate, converting 10,000 medium sized farms to organic would store as much carbon in the soil as would save in emissions if we took 1 million cars off the road. So changing 10,000 medium-sized farms to organic is the same savings in emissions. It stores as much carbon in the soil as we would save in taking 1 million cars off the road. That's quite a statistic. You know, the other thing she mentions, which is eye-opening, is the fact that there's consensus that sustainable farming practices create more resilient farms, better able to withstand the environmental influences and weather extremes of droughts and flooding that we've already seen are the results of climate change. And that organic farms are better at adapting. And she cites several studies that prove this pretty well. She says on the second page of her organic solution, encouraging sustainable agriculture will not only help us reduce emissions and adapt to future climate chaos, it will have other beneficial ripples, addressing hunger and poverty, improving public health, preserving biodiversity. One study comparing organic and conventional agriculture in Europe, Canada, New Zealand, and the US, researchers found that organic farming increased biodiversity at every level of the food chain, from birds and animals to flora, all the way down to bacteria in the soil. It's true of our own little lives also, that if you use less chemicals, you help with the biodiversity in your environment. If you don't put down fertilizer on your lawn, you will have more birds and wildlife, to sustain. So it works throughout the environment to take action that helps not only yourself, but it helps it helps with climate change and in sustaining our planet. That's really what Anna Lappé is talking about. So there were even increases in yields by 79% for farmers that shifted to sustainable organic farms. Now, again, the operative question is how do we put this plan into action? So that's what I want you to think about. I want you to think about, she definitely makes a strong argument, but how do we put this plan in action? Have you ever tried to eliminate meat like twice a week? Not to be tempted to buy a McDonald's hamburger or a Tyson box of chicken, because it's so cheap. And again, the problem is that it is more expensive to eat organic produce and meats and locally sustained food products. So why is that? I mean, it's not always true. There are local farms everywhere, even in the Bronx. I have one of the biggest resources in my neighborhood is the Bloom oysters that have shellfish. They do oysters and clams mostly, but you can go to their retail store now and get it for a quarter of the price of what you would pay even at like Stop and Shop. So you can get their clams for like 60 cents each, which is pretty good. So that's something to think about. Do you have a local farm where you can buy produce and meat that is locally sourced? So, you're not paying that transportation fee, and you're helping the climate. And you're also, there's something to be said for supporting local vendors. She talks about local organic, markets, the mom and pop stores. Can they can they get produce from the local farms and meat from the local farmers? And can we push that so that we can easily afford it? Again, those products tend to be 20% more expensive, but how can we fix that? So I want you to think about Anna Lappé and the issues she raises. So think about how your food choices can affect the environment. If you have time, you could watch Food Inc. I watched it about a year ago. It's a very good production, and she was involved in it. So you could watch it over the summer. You don't have to watch it now to prepare for the exam, but it is a pretty good production. And the thing is, when you see in action, when you see the factory farms and how the large farming operations work, and how they buy up all the small farms and then they force them to produce more and more out of efficiency, but at what cost, to the animals and to the people who are running it. All you have to do is think about, relevant to our current pandemic. I'm sure you've seen in the news and some of the meat packing plants, the supervisors and the powers that be who run those plants, they don't seem to care about the employees getting sick. They just want the production to continue. So I think that's a misplaced priority, especially during a pandemic. In one of those meat packing plants, I think it was a chicken meat packing, I'm not sure which one, but it's like 7 people had died of COVID-19. And the ones who had symptoms and were being tested were forced to go back to work until they got the results of their test. Now, to me, that seems like that's horrendous. You're not taking care of your employees. And that's just one little example of how uncaring these large producers are. They certainly don't care about the animals, and they certainly don't care about the people who are on their quote unquote front lines. So we're going to end it there, and I miss you, and I hope that you do well on your exam. I'm going to do one short video on Michael Pollan that I will also try to post tonight. Take care, and don't forget, at 2 o'clock tomorrow, you should have your readings. Print them out if you can, have them accessible, and you will use those readings to write one essay for me, and I will give you the prompt at that time. You won't have it ahead of time. But again, it will be I know you're writing on the spot. Just try to write an organized essay and answer the prompt. The answer to the prompt should allow you to write a good thesis statement. So the point of your essay should answer the prompt, and then you use these 2 sources to have something interesting to say. All right, be well, and hopefully I'll see you in the fall. Take care.